Yeah.
How is Derek? And are you starting to see glimpses of the old Derek that you met and fell in love with?
Well, Finding Derek, which was the first documentary, was all about, getting COVID and trying to stop Derek dying. And hopefully, and one never is out of the woods completely on that because the effects of COVID we still don't really understand long term, do we, as a globe? And so there's always risk and danger. And in fact, he's having some more tests currently at the moment. But really, the old Derek was loud, was shouty. You were very aware, weren't you, Nick, when he was in the room?
You were.
He was also kind, caring, incredibly invested in spending as much time as possible with the children and parenting them in a very direct way. And I suppose it's very hard to see that from someone that hasn't got a voice. So he's still speaking in a whisper when he does speak. He speaks in one words and syllables, just, to convey emotion. We get flashes of more. And we get flashes of movement. And in the opening minutes of the documentary that's going out tonight, Caring for Derek at 9 o'clock, you see something that I missed at the time because I was actually outside in the ambulance getting the kit in. It's the moment when he first returns home and he reaches forward to hug Bill. And that is the first time that we've seen him move because he wants to do something as opposed to just trying to move his limbs. So that was a big moment back then that he wanted to hug his son, and he did and was able to hug his son. So those are the glimpses we see. We do see other moments as well. Like I managed a few weeks ago to sort of transport him to a little room which he used to call the operations room, Nick, and you'll know how very much that is part of his personality.
Indeed, yes.
Where he ran things. It was a little cupboard basically. It's still got operations room on the door, and I've been using it as a little bit of a dumping ground, if I'm honest, because he's not been in there using it. And I got him to go and show the office because I wanted to get some stuff for him. And I opened the door and I said, "What do you think of this then?" And he said, "Disgraceful," because it was so untidy. So he's absolutely there. The challenge is, as you'll see in the documentary tonight, getting him out and finding the right care for him. And in the meantime, keeping him safe, because without somebody present, Derek will be dead within 3 days. He needs help to be fed through a tube, water and sustenance. And without that, he will be dead within 3 days. So it's still a kind of life or death situation now, but now it's very much about care and therapy and finding out a way forward.
What is the time period covered in tonight's documentary, Kate?
So it's from the moment he came home in April 2021, and he came home because he had such a long time in hospital being cared for with people in full PPE, of course, partly also because they couldn't get the sort of treatment they wanted into him at the hospital because of the pandemic, as so many people have found. The care, the strain of the pandemic is very tricky. And also because we wanted to see how he would react to having people he knew and loved around him. And it takes us through the labyrinth of navigating the care system and the extraordinary people within that, Nick, that I know you champion all the time, both the carers and the people that try and make the system work. They are absolute heroes. But, it is not working. It is not working as well as it should for everybody. And the care system is the one thing we're all going to need in life. We're either all going to become carers at some point for someone we love, or we're going to need care, either because we've got old and we need care, or because it can happen, as I've spoken to people, where they're 20 years old, they walk out and get hit by a car and suddenly their life is changed and they need support in how to go forward. So it's something we need to address. I don't get political in it, either party political or really have, political, because this is just my story, but I'm sure that there will be and should be a debate that follows, really. Yeah.
What has Kate Garraway learned about Kate Garraway over the last 2 years?
Oh, my giddy aunt, Nick. I've learned that I'm incredibly lucky because I have incredibly supportive bosses and many people who are in my situation, and there are upwards of 7 million of them. That is caring for someone they love, not in a professional capacity. I'm very lucky to have people that allow me to still bring income into the home and also keep the home afloat. Many people have to give up work and go on benefits, and then that seems bonkers to me, because then you've got an entire family on benefits. So I've been able to do that, even though it's been very tough at times and remain so, and I require a lot of patience. And I'm very lucky that I've got lots of friends and family around me, and many people don't have that too. And I also think learned that I'm very lucky to I've had the chance to fight on for something more. I've also learned that, I'm maybe a little bit tougher than I thought, Nick, because and maybe I'm maybe not as nice to be around as I used to be, because life is a constant battle, and sometimes I don't have enough time to sort of say how are you to other people, and I really regret that. There's friends that I haven't spoken to since Derek's got sick, because there just hasn't been a moment to. So
if they
I
love
hope they've got patience with me.
If they love you, they'll understand. If they
I've
love
learned
you,
a bit of that.
Let me ask you, you're on the front page of The Sun today.
Oh, yes.
Don't worry, they haven't found out the real secret. You're on for something else.
Are you keeping those skeletons hidden?
I'm still managing to keep that locked in the safe, but I don't know how much longer I've got. It's costing me so much on a monthly basis to Mr. Murdoch. But it's the trip to Mexico. I don't want to steal the thunder from your show tonight on ITV, but just briefly, what is the Mexico trip about?
So you'll see me at an incredibly low ebb around summer of last year, feeling like I didn't know how I could win the battle to keep going forward for Derek. Not that I was about to, have a breakdown, but just there seemed no way out. And lots of people contacted me after the first documentary, Finding Derek, and this doctor who works in America, works in the United States, was one of them. And he is conducting a trial, and has been doing so for nearly a decade, into a particular treatment that's helpful for all sorts of impact. And when COVID happened, he realized that COVID was going to present more problems for the world than just lungs, although that was bad enough, we know. And he immediately started doing some research and work with people who've been impacted by COVID. He saw the doc, saw how uniquely and terribly Derek was affected, and asked if I would consider him as a kind of control case. And so I did a lot of research into what this was, my main priority being it wasn't going to do any harm. And then involved a huge task in trying to get Derek abroad. It turned out that the best place that he could get to and be treated was Monterrey in Mexico, because of the logistics of travel and everything else. At that time, with all the restrictions that were in place, he needed to go straight to the centre and not have any stopovers. The airline company, British Airways, were amazing. So he's been out there, he's begun this kind of pioneering treatment, which, if their hypothesis, Nick, is true, will have world-reaching consequences, not just for COVID, but also for many, many, many problems that people face. But I don't want to create false hope, because we're only at the very start of it. And there's a long way to go before we know. So But I guess the hope there that I want people to think is don't give up the fight. A lot of people have said to me, Nick, when are you going to accept that Derek is how he is and he's not going to change? And I've said, well, you know what, if he is how he is, that's still wonderful. As long as we can get him enough help that he could optimize where he is, that's still a miracle. But if you broke your arm, Nick, you wouldn't just think, well, I've got a broken arm now, I'll live with it. You would go and try and get it mended. And if it couldn't be fixed properly, you would try and get therapy to optimize that fixing. So I think there's two fights that have to go on. We as a society have to give people enough support to get through whatever crisis they're dealing with when they come out of hospital. And we also have to fight on as individuals for the best. And hopefully I don't want Derek to be a guinea pig, but if Derek, we already know, Nick, don't we, that I think I've shared with you before that some of the reasons why Derek got sick was because they didn't have the medicines that we now have now. And what they've learned about what happened to Derek's body helped them to develop those medicines more quickly and more effectively. So he takes great comfort in knowing that he's contributed to that. And if there's things that we can learn in his recovery that will help other people, that again, I know because he's told me will make a huge difference to him and to a sense of purpose and a reasoning for why this hell has happened to the world.
And lastly, Kate, how much does it upset, annoy you when someone says, why don't you just accept that's what Derek will be? That is Derek now. What goes through your heart when people say that to you?
Well, I think they mean it for good reasons, Nick. I think they want to prevent me because they know what a terror I am, Nick. And they know that I just sort of, as you know, and you are as a journalist as well, they want to protect me from driving myself into the ground, I guess, and sort of having a false idea of things. But I have a very clear idea of where I am because I live with it every day. And so I don't blame anybody for saying that because I think they mean well by it. And there are things that one has to accept. I mean, you know, Derek is changed by this forever. I'm changed by this forever. The world is changed by this forever. I'm not thinking that we can wave a magic wand and suddenly it be 2019 or the beginning of 2020 again. But in the meantime, if we don't fight on, because we've all got to learn a way to get through this and go forward. And there's so many factors and ways that people have been affected that I think I just have to sort of take what they say with kindness and then plough on.
The irrepressible Kate Garraway. Thanks, Kate, so much for your time. Caring for Derek airs tonight on ITV1 at 9 p.m.